So, Jen, a weird thing happened to me today.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it, Sarah.
So, everybody, my actual name is Sarah, but I write under a pen name because everybody writes under pen names for reasons. So, anyway, I write under a pen name for a reason, and it's a complicated reality here in this house because I also did not take my husband's name when we were married. So, we have like 3 to 7 surnames.
Sure.
That like wander through this house now and then. But generally, I expect that the people in my life who like are, nice enough to send me gifts, for example, know my name.
Sure.
And I would especially expect that of my actual human mother.
Okay.
Who does not listen to the podcast, so whatever.
Sure, you could say this, right.
But today, so it is also my birthday this week. Actually, it's my birthday today. Wednesday. If you are listening,
I was
on Wednesday.
literally like, oh, I am a bad friend.
Like,
I was literally
it's not my birthday today in our life, Jen.
Sure.
It is my birthday today in
Did you see me completely like lose my mind?
You, like glitched. It's
Meanwhile,
fine. You know what though?
Your present.
You sent me a great gift.
I sent you another great gift and it arrived yesterday.
I didn't open it though.
Sure, because I'm not going to tell you.
From Jennifer. From Jennifer Prokop, and I was like,
"Listen,
how many?" Speaking of full names,
they just fucking fill that in on Amazon.
Your legal name, I know who you are.
They fill that in on Amazon. You're like, it's a gift, and then if you don't stop and stop them, they're telling everybody your business.
God forbid you should take the 2 seconds to just write "Love Jen," but that's okay. It's from Jennifer Prokop, so. Anyway,
you know what? This
I put it under
podcast
the
is
tree.
over.
Thank you. There is no. To be fair, everybody. I should say there is no present under Jennifer's tree from Sarah McLean or any of the other names that I have.
You know what? I am expecting basically 0 presents this year from anybody in my life, and I think that's fine. I don't care. Presents are for. I
actually sent you something. It's just not there yet.
It doesn't matter. Nothing matters.
I mean, it should matter because I'm your friend, and you should get presents from your friends. Anyway, can we get back to me though?
Sure. Yes. Sorry. And your mother.
It's my birthday this week, and my mother sent me a birthday card, and it is addressed to Sarah McLean.
That's weird.
Which has literally never been my name. Continues to not be my legal name.
That's weird.
So, I mean, I probably shouldn't laugh because my mother is quite aging and
sure.
This probably is indicative of something. But I like to think that it's indicative of the fact that she finally read one of my books and now believes that I have a career. You can't, my mother's very British and there was no fucking way she was going to read a romance novel. Not from the very jump. And then she read Storms. And she said, I enjoyed it.
That sounds nice. My mom listens to the podcast sometimes. She doesn't always listen.
I'm glad for that. I'm glad for both of those things. I'm glad she listens sometimes, and I'm glad she doesn't always listen. I expect Carol would tap right out if...
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
She needed to.
This is a woman who has very strong self-preservation instincts, and for sure that's true.
She does not listen to the New Year's Eve episodes.
No. I mean, I'm sure they don't even appear. Like some quirk of fate. Just
the universe.
Just...
Poof, gone. Even though it's funny. So I did this event with a book club in California over Zoom a couple weeks ago. And it was really funny because I got on the thing and there was this lovely group of women, some of whom maybe listen to Fated Mates. Welcome if you are part of this lovely group of women. And they immediately were like, we have to tell you a story. And she told, and the moment so the thing is that the moment somebody says that to me this year, I either think they're going to tell me a story about their absolutely bananas, crazy pants family.
Okay, sure. Oh,
because of storms,
oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Which they love to do. Or, who knows, right? But it's rare I hear something that I haven't already heard. And she says, well, I was listening to your book on audio. And then another woman from the club interjects, we've never read anything so dirty. And I was like, my friends, the water is fine.
Listen, probably they're all watching Heated Rivalry now and learning things.
Listen, may I introduce you to Wicked and the Wallflower?
Seriously.
That rooftop scene, blowing minds across California. Anyway, point is, And then she's like, I got in the car and I was listening in the car, and then I came into the house, and my teenage son and his friend had to borrow the car, like had to use that car to go somewhere. So they immediately, like, we sort of traded, and it never occurred to me that my phone from inside the house was still connected
Meanwhile,
to the car when her
amazing.
like 17-year-old and his friend got in the car, and it was the scene where Alice and Jack are exploring the desk in her father's office. And I was like, listen, and she started it, and I was like, I know exactly
what you're going to say. Right, exactly.
And then I said, you know what, ma'am? I mean, I didn't call her ma'am because I'm not an idiot.
Sure.
I'm not cruel. I was like, you know what? Moms deserve nice things too. So all I'm saying is, you don't know what your mom was into, and she might be super into, New Year's Eve stuff.
Sure.
But also, there's no reason for you to discuss that with your mother, is my point.
Oh, yeah.
You or anyone else. This is me, you, like, broadly.
Sure.
You in the kind of second person.
Yeah, yes. I was literally like,
no.
100%.
Not you, Jen. Yeah, also you, Jen, but not you, but,
Sure.
Anyway, so there we are. So I'm getting mail from my mom with a different name on it than I have had legally my whole life than she gave me. So that's weird. But, that's life. Welcome, everyone, to Fated Mates. I'm Sarah McLean. I read romance novels, and I write them. I read a lot of romance novels this week.
Yes. And I'm Jennifer Prokop, a romance reader and editor. And, yeah. We have a lot of fun things to talk about. And it's debut week, so we'll get to that. Heated Rivalry is still going hot.
Heated and rivalrous.
Speaking of people not understanding a lot about sex, I've seen some things.
All right, headphones in, everyone, because I will talk about this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, listen, everyone. I am interested in self-preservation for all things. So I have not watched Heated Rivalry yet because I did not grow up in the age of commercial breaks and having to wait a whole week for television to do that anymore. Like, that's just uncivilized behavior. So now I wait until the whole thing's out, and then I will download HBO Max, and then I will watch the whole show in one sitting. And then I will get on the texting, and I will say to Joanna and Adriana and Jen that I understand them. But I have read the book, and so I feel comfortable saying that when the internet blew up this morning, because apparently there was a scene this week, or
yes,
I don't know, where Shane takes care of both of them with his hand at the same time.
Correct.
Which I did not know how to name, by the way.
Oh, yeah, it has a name.
That, I'm a straight, and I did not know that I had a name.
I did know about the name, yeah. Because I like to read.
What's it called?
Frauding.
Wait, that's like a word that you've seen in books?
Yeah.
No. I've never seen that word in a book. All right.
Well,
you're more well-read than me.
I don't know. Maybe it's,
Frauding?
What?
First of all, that's not a... I know
that's a sexy word.
It's not a sexy word.
I think that's
not a word I want to see in print.
Yeah, but I think now I'm like, I wonder... Well, okay, doesn't matter. That's a word I knew.
It's a mashup of like friend and rod.
You're so...
Okay, this is an audio podcast that we have to come back together.
I'm not drinking.
Okay. The reason why I say that, everyone, is because...
Good news, everybody. Carol's gone.
Carol's gone.
Okay, I'm fine. All right, I'm ready.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
We're professionals.
We are not, but okay. But you know what? Everyone right now.
There's a Golden Globe for Best Podcast now, and I really feel...
Now I'm looking it up. It's from the French for to rub.
Oh, is that how you say rub in French?
I have no
I
idea.
like my way better, honestly.
Ooh.
Okay. Anyway, everybody.
Oh, when you look it up on Wikipedia, there's like actual illustrations, including one all the way back from the Moguls. What a time.
I mean,
What a time. Everyone, I would say look down at your podcasting
cave
app
paintings
and you
in
could enjoy
France.
this right now. But sadly, you can't. So let's go. They were on the cave paintings. That's where the word comes from.
Check show notes for all of this information, everyone. But the point is that if your friend has a rod and you also have a rod, you can touch both of them at the same time. And if you're Shane, you could do it with one hand.
Sure.
And apparently this happens in this episode of Heated Rivalry, and the straights were confused.
That's the part that I've got to tell you.
And
having watched this,
it's a supreme lack of imagination on the part of everyone here.
Yes,
because even if you didn't know,
even if
about
you weren't
frauding,
sure, you could probably be like, I wonder what's happening right now.
Also, guess what? If you can get off doing it, humans do. So I don't know.
Correct. Correct. Anyway, amazed. This, I don't even know where we're going to go from there, to be honest with you.
But this was great. Cut it, print it, send it to Adriana and Joanna.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as soon as this is live, I'm going to be like, please just listen to us like fucking laugh
first
ourselves
11
silly.
minutes of the episode.
I, as everyone knows, do not watch TV, but I have been watching the show in real time. And I'll tell you, it has been a real delight because it like the water cooler, the water cooler effect, right?
Yeah,
like talking
sure.
about it with people who are watching about it at the same time and are really excited on the Discord. I have like a couple friend groups at work who are watching it, and the guy at the front desk at school and I chat about it and we send each other little memes. And so it's been great. So it is not too late for you to get on this train, everybody. That's what I'm saying. Unless, of course, you're in a place where you can't find it yet, but it will be coming to a train station near you and you're going to have a nice time. Let's see. It's nearing the holidays. I think that if you have not yet ordered our book box from Pocket Books, I can't guarantee. I think at this point, probably it's not going to come in time for the holidays.
Won't come before the holidays. Although mine did come within like 2 days.
Mine did come also really fast. But what I will tell you is, even if that's not the case, winter is coming and it's here and you're going to want some nice books to read. And so Heated Rivalry is going to end and you're going to need something to read. And this box from Pocket Books is full of great things for you to read. So if you haven't yet had a chance to get that, please check it out. Okay, so do we want to talk about debuts, Sarah? This week's episode of Faded Mates is sponsored by the Scandals and Swoons Festival.
This is so exciting. If you are in and around Orlando, Florida in January, you are going to be so psyched because this Scandals and Swoons Festival is a celebration of historical romance. It is a brand new historical romance conference, and it is specifically designed to uplift marginalized and diverse voices in historical romance and celebrate historicals with a group of people who really, really love our little corner of romance. The inaugural event is in Orlando on January 18th, and it is a one-day signing with 2 signing sessions and an add-on VIP dinner featuring some incredible authors and like authors that we love here at Faded Mates. Addie Dulac will be there, Alice Murphy, Elizabeth Everett, Alma Albin, Harper St. George, Joanna Lowell, who we love so much, Joanna Shoup, who we love so much, Lenora Bell, Liana De La Rosa. This is going to be an absolutely star-studded historical romance event for those of you who are in or interested in heading to Orlando in January, where it will be warm and there will be lots of romance authors ready to sign your books. Tickets start at $30. And again, that event is on January 18th.
This is a perfect thing to be doing in the very cold and snowy month of January, heading down to Florida for something warm and spicy. So if you would like to check it out, you can go to the Scandals and Swoons Fest website at swoonsfest.com. So that's SWOONSFEST.com. And thanks to the Scandals and Swoons Fest for sponsoring this week's episode.
Yeah, so we started this last year, this idea of doing like a debut episode. And I think part of the reason why we talked about this, and I know I don't want to repeat myself because I know we talked about this exact problem a couple of episodes ago, but um I think you and I both kind of felt like it's very hard to keep track of new names in genre. Um
Yeah.
and what I mean by that is discoverability, as we've been saying over the last, it feels like forever, is very difficult in romance. And so many of our listeners come to us to like learn about new authors, but you and I, if we decide that, this is what our work is to make sure our listeners have access to new authors and like are hearing about new authors, it's our work to find them. And obviously, every episode we try to add at least a couple of books that by people we've never talked about on the podcast. And romance is a massive pool, and that's pretty easy to do. But the debut of it all is difficult because if you're not kind of the biggest book of the year debut, which sometimes does happen, then often you can be just sort of like a quiet book that doesn't get very much attention, but should have gotten attention. And it's because, you're brand new to the genre or to publishing, and you are not getting the support that you need in house, or you don't have a community or a network of other authors to like talk about your book, and it becomes very, very difficult to find all those like 10 touch points that you need for a reader to be like, oh, I've heard of that person before. I've heard of that book before. I'm going to get it. So last year we went out to all the traditional publishers and then also to our Discord and to you all. And we said, we're looking for debuts. Please, fill out this form. We had a Google form. And we asked all the publishers to please send us their debuts. And the rules were very clear. We were like, we want true debut authors. We don't want people who've changed genre. We want people who like this is truly their first published book. And last year it felt like we got a fair number of books from traditional publishers. This year, not so much.
Yes.
And I think, and like kind of a shocking lack of debuts. And that's not to say that there weren't obviously a number of them, but I would say at least half of what we had last year.
Half the number for sure.
One other thing I want to say is our other rule is it can't be something that has been self-published or independently published and then was picked up by a traditional publishing house.
Unless it's in the same year.
Unless it's in the same year, which is very rare. So for us, it felt very much like we were, houses are saying like debut romance, this is a debut, and it is a debut for them. But it's not, or in traditional publishing, but it's not actually a debut. It's a book that's been on KU for, a year.
So yeah, we did. We had publishers kind of just being like, we don't really have any.
Yep.
We had other publishers like not respond. And then I had like sort of lists that I had been keeping. And, so there are some books on here that like, we think, it's just really interesting. And I think the thing that I would say, right, is for me, like reading and maybe it's like a good time to talk about like sort of our process because.
Oh yeah, we should.
Right. Like, so, and this is now the second year that we've done this. And like this process worked really well for me last year and then like not as well for me this year. So maybe I'm still kind of trying to figure it out. But I think one of the things I did last year was essentially like I just had this big stack of books because we asked publishers to send them. You and I had also done a better job of like splitting up the list, kind of like I'll tackle these, you tackle these. Mm-hmm. This year we kind of like it was late, that didn't really happen. So it was just kind of like we were working from like a spreadsheet, and then I had some books and then some were on my Kindle. So I think I just wasn't as organized. Mm-hmm. But the reason I kind of like essentially dedicating a couple weeks to reading them or attempting them. Like at one point I told Sarah, I was like, I feel like I'm I'm like, in I-80, in Immortals After Dark, like a demon to find his mate has to like attempt a lot of people and then they don't know until they do it. That was me. I was attempting a lot of books. And it was really interesting. What I liked about it last year and still this year was kind of like, even if there are books I didn't quite finish or I didn't quite get to like see when you look at a whole group of books, like what are some of the commonalities, right? So, for example, there were like at least 3 books this year that were all about gaming, right? And I don't think I would have like clued into that necessarily if I had not. And I'm not going to like talk about actually any of these books, but like, so I think there's something useful about like sort of thinking about like the sort of thematic similarities, and then also are there like sort of similarities in the writing, or are there things you're seeing bubble up that you're like, oh, there really are more heroine only point of view books out there, right? Like this is kind of like what this group of books looks like as a collective. I think the reason it didn't quite work for me was maybe my aforementioned like lack of, I don't know, organization.
I mean, I did the same. I mean, yes, we were less organized this year about it. And I felt like in the last like 2 weeks, I've been sort of really scrambling to find all of the debuts that I wanted to attempt over the course of the year that I missed back. Although you'll hear, I'm going to talk about at least one that like I have talked about before. And I think that there are a lot of reasons for that. Like one, I think I actually did read less this year. I read fewer books this year, just sort of naturally. And I was doing a lot more and it was a busy year for me, but also 2025 was sort of a chaotic mental mess, like for me globally. And so for me, I was really reading to the podcast every week.
Yeah, me too.
And so, it just felt like a different kind of process. But also, it was an exercise in discoverability for me. Like, because knowing that there were fewer books coming from traditional publishers, right? I went out looking for indie published romance, and like that is also a different. You can't just get to Google and be like, "Show me all the debut indie published romance in 2025." Like,
right? It's impossible. It doesn't exist. Yeah,
people don't do it. I think a lot of debut authors like are hesitant to call themselves that. Like, and so, even in the description, it's very difficult to sort of know, is a book by an author I've never heard of a debut? Like,
yeah, right.
It's just a lot more research intensive.
Well, and I think,
and then
it's worth saying too that like the opposite can also be true. Like, right, someone could have written a bunch of books under a different pen name, right? Like in a different subgenre,
that
for
may be the
example,
case for
and then you're like, oh, this looks like their first book, but then someone's like, oh no, that's so and so, right? So it's also really tricky to sort of run some of that down in a way that feels at all doable.
Correct. And then there was also the sort of the DNA of this episode, right? Which we talked about a lot, because last year we were very, very committed to like, we wanted it to be like bangers.
Yeah.
Right. And this year, I think we continue to want this episode to be bangers. These are people who we think their first book indicates that they could be a longstanding voice in genre. This could be an author who you 10 years from now are able to say, like, I read her when, right? And I think I read them when, and I think that's really valuable. And I think that finding the bangers requires reading many, many more books, right? We could have done this the way we do, say, a quarterly roundup, where those are the 4 episodes that we do a year where we basically play discoverability for you.
Yeah.
But we haven't read all of the books. And so we just say, like, here are 40 books we're excited about in the next 3 months. So there's that too. And that is, I want to say, we also said, all right, we're going to come with 4 books each. So this is not to say these are the only bangers. And we also missed a bunch of books, because of course we do. Like, we are 2 people just trying to get by in the world. But I would like to talk a little bit about how we come at debuts, because I think
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about.
I think we are different in the way, I mean, we are different readers, as everybody who listens to the podcast knows. And sometimes my favorite is when somebody comes up to you like at somebody comes up to me at an event and they're like, I'm a Sarah reader, or I'm a Jen reader. And or they'll say like, I know that if you love a book, I'm not gonna like it. I'm like, great. Listen, I'm really glad that I can help you like do that work. But I will say most of the time people are like, I also know though, like that book is gonna be like somebody will love that book. It's a good book. It's just not for me. And so but I freaking love a debut. Like, and I'm publicly like, give me the messy ones, give me because for me, first books are really telling, I think they are a showcase of an author's instincts before they are checked.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
So for me, like, I expect debuts to be kind of flabby.
Oh
I
yeah,
expect them to have characters who maybe shouldn't be there.
sure.
Or like
To be messy, yeah, in some way.
like plot movements that like might have been tightened up in the hands of a more seasoned author. Like, but I also expect them to be raw. Like, I want the emotions to be sort of dialed up to 11. I want it to feel like there's like this person came to romance to write romance because they love something about the genre.
Yeah.
And so I really love a book that's doing something weird. I mean, you all know that. I love a book that's doing something weird no matter who writes it. But I feel like debuts who do things that are weird are like really a unique.
Yeah.
That's a unique book that I really enjoy reading them, even if I'm like, this is terrible, Though I will say, I did not say that about any of the books I'm talking about today. I did not think any of them were terrible.
Yeah, no, I think we are alike in that way. I mean, I think there are books where there are things that, like in some of these books where I was like, if this had been someone's third book, this would have driven me bonkers, but because it's a debut, like it's not a big deal. I found myself really thinking about like which books I kept, like what were the like X factors in like the books that kept me reading. Obviously the first one is just like the writing's really good, right? Like this is a smooth, right? Like it's genre fiction. I would like very much to just pick up the book and fall into it and have the reading experience feel like a slip and slide, right? Like I'm not looking for a lot of bumps in the road. And so that can mean both like the sentence level work, right? Like sort of is like that kind of thing, right? I'm not stopping to be like, wait, what's going on here? Is right? So the writing feels good and, really readable to me. But then I would say like the other big things I was looking for is feelings, right? Like I just want the feelings to be there. So whatever those feelings are, and I don't mean like, right? Like I have a book that I thought was full of grief that I really liked. I had another book that I just thought was like really almost like zany. Right. And I think that's it. It was like, but like to me, like those are probably my two, like the kind of the two ends of the spectrum for me, which is like I also just want to feel that the author is like really leaning into their own premise, right? Like whatever story it is that they are telling, it's a story they really believe in. And that means that like there's, like you said, even if it's like messy and raw, that there's just like a real sense of this person, just really like this. I don't know. There's a kind of, a kind of commitment to it, right? That I find it's very hard, obviously, to like name what that looks like. But as I was reading, I was kind of like, I could feel it or I couldn't. And I think that's the part that, the 4 books I'm talking about are actually pretty different. And then I have a handful of other ones that I like, kind of like didn't quite finish but think were interesting and intend to finish and maybe we'll be talking about, or like you'll mention one, I'll be like, oh, that reminds me of. These were books more than anything else that when I was reading thought, I can't wait to get back to it.
Yep.
I
Agreed.
can't wait to get back to it. What's gonna happen to these people? Right? That's all I
Agreed.
wanted. Yeah. So the one other thing I think was really interesting is that I would say that I found overall these books to be honestly not very sexy. I don't know. I guess I'll just say it.
I think that's a fair assessment of the pool.
Yeah, of
I
the pool.
do. If you follow me on Threads, you know that I was sort of pushing my Threads followers to like wreck me books
Yeah.
this year, over the last couple of weeks. I was particularly looking for that sort of high heat billionaire, like the sort of straight down the middle,
Right.
like high heat billionaire in like indie published, like I don't know, like hockey, like
Whatever it was, yeah.
Just give it to me. Like
Right.
I wanted that sort of very, very basic, classic, contemporary.
Yeah.
And I honestly did not find anything debut that scratched that particular itch. And that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I guess what I'm saying here is if you know of that author, somebody who wrote their first book and it was this kind of, one-handed read.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was really looking for. Is like something with like a real like fierce intensity in terms of like the sexiness.
Yeah.
I don't want it horny. I want it sexy.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And it feels, I agree. And I thought a lot about whether that's, I think there's no question that we're seeing that shift in romance. We have seen that shift. It has happened.
Yeah.
And the books just aren't quite there.
Well, I had this thought and I sort of auditioned this thought on Blue Sky this week because, of course, Heated Rivalry is very sexy. Not just hot, but sexy. And the storytelling through the sex is terrific. I will include a really great article by Jenny Hamilton, I think is her name, who wrote about sort of like, she writes this series called Anatomy of a Sex Scene on her blog, and she wrote about Heated Rivalry. And it was like a really strong defense of something like we say all the time, right? Which is like, sex is doing work in romance, right? It's telling us about the characters and their relationship. I've had lots of really interesting conversations on our Discord about this and how it's working in the show. And I found myself thinking, well, if you're writing romance in 2025, almost 2026, and you don't know that and you don't believe it, then maybe one of the reasons that the books feel like they aren't working is because like a sort of thing that romance has always done really well, using physical intimacy to sort of tell the relationship story, is like we've like thrown out one of our most useful tools. Maybe we've lost the plot in romance because we've literally lost the plot. And that plot being the physical intimacy arc of these people is going to tell us something about who they are and where they are in their relationship.
Yeah, there's something obviously we've talked about this before, and I don't know. Sometimes we also have this. If you're on the Patreon, you know that once a month we do an extra episode, and that's an episode where Jen and I really like dig deep on like something craft related or some theme that we're seeing in romance. So I'm not sure if I talked about this on main this podcast or in banter on the Patreon, but I think obviously we can tell a lot about if we think about romance as like and genre in general as like holding up a mirror, right? A lot has been going on in sex in the books.
Yeah.
Like the sex means something.
Mm-hmm.
It meant something in the 70s. It meant something in the 90s. It means something today, right? And I think I spoke certainly this year at some point about the fact that I see there's like a significant lack of, the sort of golden rule of sex and romance, which was always like she comes first. Like
Mm-hmm.
she comes first, she comes twice for every time he
Yep.
comes once. Like that rule seems to be like out the window on a lot of books now. We're not seeing as much oral,
Yeah.
like oral for women. We're
Right.
seeing more focus on blowjobs
Yeah.
than we are on conolingus. We're seeing there are trends that are very clear
Yeah.
in romance. And I think what's interesting is we're seeing the contemporary romance to a certain extent sort of chase toward the really big names, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Abby Jimenez writes Closed Door. Emily Henry's romances have like one or two sex scenes, and they are like those books are horny, but like the sex scenes are very short,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I think there is a certain and I will say I have always said this. Anytime anybody's like, "Oh, editors are pushing authors too." I will say that in my 15 years of doing this job, I have never been pushed by an editor to make something sexier or less sexy.
Mm.
What I will say is that a lot of editors have said to me, authors do it themselves. Like
Yeah.
their
The
authors
internalized
say,
whatever.
look at Abby or Emily and say, oh, they're writing like less sexy or less overtly sexy on page. And so I'm going to pull back. And so, like, it's just all the question is like, are we doing it ourselves or is it the market that's asking for it? And I don't have an answer to that, right? It's the chicken or egg conundrum. But I mean, it's Allie is certainly not pulling her punches and she sells, the market loves her books.
Sure. Well, I wonder, you know what? Here's the thing I would say about like back to Heated Rival, which is like the sexiest thing I've seen lately and
Yeah.
read, right? Or not read, but like, in terms of like romance. And I was like, I think the thing I kept thinking is like when you watch it though, you're like, this is a show that's being made for grown-ups.
Yeah, but also, Jen, it's a show that's being made for grown-ups based on a book that came out
Yeah.
before this movie,
Well,
this
and
ship
also made in Canada.
made in
Right?
Canada.
I mean, like, I don't think we can discount the
Mm-hmm.
the very American problem of like rising fascism, book bans, right? Like all of the things that are going to impact people and make them think. Like, if I am paying my bills by writing these books, then I need to probably make sure that my books can stay on the shelves. I mean, again, I can't speak to that, but like for sure, it just felt like watching this, it was impossible. And I'm not the only person or the first person to say it, that had this show been made by HBO Max instead of just airing on HBO Max, it probably would have been different. And I think that it's not just that. So anyway, I mean, it's just really interesting. And I think we should probably talk about some of these debuts.
Yeah, let's do it.
This week's episode of Fated Mates is brought to you by Mariah Scarpolini, author of The Titan's Rose.
This one is for our Greek mythology girlies. Framed for a crime he didn't commit, Eurydice is the forbidden son of Hades, cursed by Zeus to live in exile as a terrifying beast. But when war erupts between Olympus and the underworld, Athena's mortal-born daughter, Arya, is caught in the crossfire. She is forbidden from seeing her mother until she proves herself, and she has to navigate this world of betrayal and ancient magic and divine politics on a quest for justice. And I'm guessing she's going to have to negotiate that terrifying beast. So as the Titans prepare to destroy the universe and loyalties fracture, Eurydice and Arya have to choose between saving the realms or each other. This one is a Beauty and the Beast retelling and is for anybody who loves a cursed hero and a forbidden love, which is all of us, let's be honest.
Agree. So if you are interested in checking out the Titan's Rose, please know that Mariah is also really building a world and a fan base before the debut launches. So check out voting on the book cover, taking quizzes to discover your divine parent, seeing your name appear as a character, and even enjoying a curated Spotify playlist. Step into a world you won't want to leave, surrounded by characters you will love.
If you want to be among the first to enter the world of the Titans Rose, you can visit fatedmates.net/Mariah. That's MARIAH, which will redirect you to Mariah's page where you can sign up to learn more about the book. You can also follow Mariah on Instagram at @MariahScarpolini_author. Links to all of this will be in show notes. And thanks to Mariah Scarpolini for sponsoring this week's episode. I am going to start with, what am I going to start with? The Best Worst Thing by Lauren Oakey, which was recommended to me multiple times by people who were looking for, when I said like I was looking for a debut book. And the reason why I want to talk about this book is because this book is messy. And I don't mean it's messy in the writing. I mean it is messy in the story.
I was really drawn to mess. I before you get started, if your book was messy,
I have a couple that are
me too.
Messy.
And I was like, thank you. Let people be messy.
Yeah. And now listen, and I want to content warn, this book is fully not for everyone. Like, I want to say that off the bat, which again, like, that often means like if somebody's like, this book is not for everyone, I'm like, give that to me. Let me read that first. So the premise of this book is our heroine is going through severe infertility issues. She is married. She has been married for a long time. And she and her husband have been going through fertility treatments, IVF, for at least 2 years. And they are the structure of their IVF is that they have a surrogate, but they are taking an egg from the heroine and sperm from her husband, and then they are like implanting the egg into their surrogate because she can't carry a child. And so it begins with this sort of like, you know, a very, very sort of intense couple of chapters where you're deep in the like muck of the emotional churn of this kind of hope, despair of IVF. And this is not an experience I've ever personally gone through. So your mileage may vary on this. And I just want to like name it, so they extract the eggs, they implant them into the surrogate. She comes home from a trip. She walks into their apartment thinking that her husband is not there and discovers that he has been having an affair with their dog walker. And it is brutal. It is a brutal moment. Oki does not pull away from it. It is, she is wrecked. She goes to her, her sister. She goes to her best friend. She is like, it's over. Like, I'm not doing this. Like, this man. And like, there is something very raw about the emotional state of this heroine at the beginning of this book where like, she is like, I have put everything into like having a child with this man. And he has been, it turns out, like cheating on her for a long time. And, she leaves him. She's basically like, this is over. But of course, it's not over because the surrogate is pregnant. And there is, and this is a complex situation where, like, again, sort of, I feel like this is a romance that is doing something that I've never quite seen done this way, because the husband is in the picture in this book in a like messy, gross, like kind of everything about this marriage falling apart is terrible kind of way, right? Mm-hmm. But at some point in the past, the heroine had a like guy at work who she had a great relationship with, like not a sexual relationship. He was like her work husband, and they flirted and they were happy. And the book is written in dual timeline where we sort of go back and we see this kind of years ago, this opportunity. There was a chance for another path, and she didn't take that path because she had this man. She was in a committed relationship. It was just like a missed connection. But it's like her best friend and her sister are both like, oh, like Lucas was always sort of a possibility? Like, what if you just like explored that with him and like just had sex and like enjoyed yourself and like, took your body back in a lot of ways?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's this sort of very kind of freeing sort of moment here where she thinks, okay, and then she goes to him and he kind of gets it. Like,
Yeah.
she doesn't tell him though about the surrogate who's pregnant. She doesn't tell him that like there's a legal mess here. Like if they divorce before the baby's born, like what happens to the child? Like there's a lot of mess here, Jen. And again, like I don't know that this book. In fact, I will tell you, this book is definitely not for everyone. But like what is happening on the pages of this book is very interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's I will say like it has this like wildly sexy first kiss that comes, sort of they're in his car and it feels like hot and like humid and it feels like something that they have both wanted this and deserved this for years, but they haven't been able to have it. Even though like she really like threads this beautiful needle where it's like she wasn't intellectually cheating. It wasn't she was not like lingering on this man, but like there's just this moment where you feel like these two really were meant for each other and it just didn't happen then. But maybe it can happen now. I mean there's some really charming moments here. There's this kind of constant, this sort of push-pull. Obviously, there's lots of reasons why they can't be together, but there's really a beautiful moment where she realizes like they're about to have sex and like it's gonna happen, and they're both in it. Like it is, and you're in it as a reader. You're like, let's do this. And then she thinks to herself, like, oh, I can't. And it's not because she's still married or like whatever, because that's over. And like, we all know that's over. It's because she hasn't told him the truth about like the surrogate, the life, the like all the past like mess. And she thinks to herself, like, we're strangers, even though they've known each other for so long and they clearly care about each other. Like, this is a complex way of looking at like two humans finding each other. And it's very messy. And I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I think this is a writer who like I will be very interested in reading her next book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is Lauren Oakey's The Best Worst Thing.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we're going from like, if we're starting with messy.
Let's do mess.
Then I'm going to start with the book that I thought like, and by mess, I mean, in this case, like so my book is going to be Once Upon a Time in Dollywood by Ashley Jordan. And I would say, I would not call this like a mess in the same way necessarily. Although to me, what I mean when I'm talking about mess, it means like these are deeply human characters with lives that are in a mess, right? These are people who are struggling for whatever reason. And so in Once Upon a Time in Dollywood, it starts off with Eve, who is a playwright in New York City, who has just had a second miscarriage in a pretty short turnaround time with her fiance, and it's this awful scene where they're sitting in his therapist's office, and she did not want to go. She did not want to go talk about her miscarriage with. Like, right. Mm-hmm. And she's just so fucking furious at like sort of being made to perform a certain kind of like feeling, right, for the sake of this therapist and this man. And it's really clear from the narration that like she desperately wants a child. She's had these 2 miscarriages. She and this, I can't remember the fiance's name, Leo, are not very happy. In other ways, but they've sort of stuck it out because of this, and then they go to like her parent, and then she basically like just, it's great, like gets up and fucking walks out. It's just like, I can't do this.
Nice.
Goes to her parents' house, who live, again, I think in Brooklyn, and they are also like, and it's really interesting because you think like what she wants to do is go home and tell them what she's gone through, and instead she's like withholding from them too. And what she basically decides is that she basically like walks out on her relationship with Leo, walks out on her parents, and goes to her grandmother's like cottage outside of Gatlinburg, Tennessee, where she had spent time as a teenager. And she has not been to this. She has not been to this house. Her grandmother's just died, and sort of like now, I can't remember. It doesn't really matter if the house has been left to
Yeah.
her, her parents still own it, or whatever. So she goes to this little cottage, and she's like, she's a playwright. She's like, I'm gonna have writing to do. I need a break. And so she basically just like walks out of her life. So then as she's like walking around in this like sort of new, not neighborhood really, because it's like pretty secluded, she sees this white man, Jamie, who's basically like kind of like, who are you? And she's like, oh, fuck, great. Now this, right? Like he's going to think I'm stealing or right, like whatever. And it turns out that Jamie has like a house up there. It was her grandmother's neighbor. He loved her grandmother too, and was like, oh my gosh, you're her granddaughter. And they strike up this sort of tentative like friendship, right? Because he's like, you don't have groceries, like you don't have heat in your cottage, like you need firewood. And it's really, and he, in the meantime, has just had a long relationship with a woman and had to go that he found her cheating on him. They never got married because she kind of wouldn't marry him, but they do have an 8-year-old son. And he had to like sue for full custody because like this, essentially like he wanted to like kind of figure out how can we share custody. And his, this woman was, I can't remember her name either, always trying to like essentially like she wanted full custody, but she doesn't have any money. Jamie's basically supporting her, right? Like these two are messy, messy lives. Lots going on. And what we find out is like then though, when they're up in the mountains together, right? They become friends and then they become kind of tentative lovers, although like this book is probably one of the sexier books too. And like the first couple times they fool around, we get like how deeply traumatized Eve is around sex. And it turns out that the reason she had spent that time with her grandmother as a teenager was because she had sex on her prom night, got pregnant, and her parents essentially like cast her out. They sent her to her grandmother's and forced her to give up the baby for adoption. And it's devastating. And
Yeah.
basically everything about Eve's life, it's almost like Arrested Development, right? Everything about Eve's life, like what she thought she wanted for herself, what she thinks about herself as a sexual being, the kinds of relationships she's had, were sort of, I don't know, like just like frozen at that time period where her whole, like, right, this one dumb teenage mistake, her parents are very religious, essentially gets treated as, the worst kind of teenage rebellion. And it's really a beautiful and heartbreaking book. I found like full of feelings, which is what I wanted, right? Like, so as Jamie is sort of kind of like, come to Nashville, like meet the family, like she can't even bear to talk about his son because it's too painful for her, right? She has Leo that she basically like walked out on, right? She's still sharing an apartment with him in New York. She has her parents who she's basically cut off and like won't talk to anymore. And it's like she sort of has to like refine who she is in this really real way. And Jamie is someone who helps her do it, but he is also messy. It's not like you know what I really liked about this book? It would have been very easy for him to be just like generic good guy who's like waiting around for her to like get her shit together. But he is also, right, this woman cheated on him. He's not sure he can trust Eve. Why can't she like just like give him this, right? Why is she so afraid of talking about Leo? And so the way that it's like two porcupines, right? Like, and I think that's the part that I would also say about this book is, no one hearing all that is going to be surprised here that a third act breakup comes, but it is one of those third act breakups where when it happens, you're like, well, of course this was going to happen. It's deeply rooted in all of the ways that they can't be together yet. They're not ready for it. It's so perfectly done. And it's also the kind of thing where when it all goes down, I literally thought to myself, I am so sympathetic to both of them. And I
Yeah.
think that to me is the part about this book by Ashley Jordan that makes her like one to really watch for me is here she has taken two broken people and we can see that they will be perfect for each other, but she is not afraid to like let them be broken.
Yeah.
And she's also not afraid to like let them be mean to each other, to say kind of shitty things, to, and I just found it really probably one of the most rewarding reading experiences I had this year. I really, really loved it. So,
Well,
yeah,
it sounds like she's doing a ton of character work.
the character
like-
work was so good. Yeah, so it was terrific. Once Upon a Time in Dollywood.
This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Atria Books, publishers of the upcoming debut romance, Bloodbound by Ellis Hunter.
So this is a debut romantasy. It's a high-stakes fantasy romance trilogy set against a once-in-a-generation duel to the death between rival witches and dragon riders. The stakes of the battle is the source of their magic. One of our main characters is Astrid. She has always known that she's destined to die. She's the last witch and heir to a queendom, but that has been cursed by the centuries-old covenant to participate in this duel with the heir to the kingdom of Vatra. And Astrid's time is now up. She has to head into enemy territory to face Prince Zyron, the most powerful dragon rider in ages, with only her familiar, her potions, and her wits to aid her. She knows she's going to die, and if she does, her chance at a queendom and of curing the blight that's ravaging her lands will die with her. Meanwhile, deep in Dragon Country, Skylar and her traveling troupe arrive in Vatra's capital, ready to profit off the legions of spectators swarming the city ahead of the duel. She despises these royals and all they stand for, especially since the King's Guard murdered her mother. So when her best friend disappears, suspected to have been taken into conscription, her search takes her closer to the royals than she ever could have imagined. As this duel looms over the kingdom, Skylar and Astrid's fates intertwine. They must battle a growing rebellion, their inner demons, and ultimately those they love most to determine if together they can save or doom their world.
This debut fantasy is available right now for pre-order. You can pre-order the deluxe edition with a reversible jacket, sprayed edges, design end papers, and a foiled stamp case right now wherever you get your books. And if your podcasting app supports it, you can click on the chapter title to be taken to buy the book. Thanks to Atria Books and Ellis Hunter for sponsoring this week's episode. Well, I'm going to continue on mess.
Okay.
But this one is a real different kind of mess. So I picked up Annie Maier's Cosmic Love at the Multiverse Hair Salon because the owners of Pocket Bookshop in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, put it on their best of the year list. So everybody, Pocket does our book box, which you can look at our best. You can get 8 of our 10 best of the year books at fatedmates.net/bookbox. But if you go to that page, also you can add on to the book box some of the Pocket Books' favorite romances, and this was on their list. And actually, when I went in to sign a bunch of copies of Storms when it first came out in the summer, I said, "What are you guys reading?" And 2 people there were like, "Oh, you got to read Cosmic Love at the Multiverse Hair Salon," which I immediately bought there. And then, of course, set on my bedside table and did not look at until 2 weeks ago. But what a fucking charming book.
Love it.
Jen, I had a great time reading this. So the structure here is at first glance, I was like, I'm not sure this is for Sarah. And then I was like, wait a second, I think this might have unlocked a new for Sarah thing.
Ooh, fun.
So, okay. Here's the premise. There are Tressa Faye, our first heroine, is like a Instagram star / hairstylist. And she has this, dresses, she's super sexy. She's is really deeply free and has basically no inhibitions. And she posts pictures of herself dressed in wild, fun outfits, oftentimes very sexy outfits at her hair salon where she is sort of magic with scissors. Not magic, real magic, magic.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on in this book, but I want to be clear, no one's a witch. So So she is sort of famous in this like city where, to for hairstyling, and also she's like kind of a minor media celebrity or social media celebrity. She is also kind of like not that interested. She's come out of a bad relationship. She's not really ready for a relationship. And so on a night when a bunch of her friends are all like planning to go to a bar and like meet new people, she's like, I'm going home to like eat soup and sit with my cat. And so she goes home and she gets a accidental text message, which, like
Love.
immediately I'm like, whatever's going to happen here is going to be so fun. She gets this sort of accidental text from this woman named Meryl, who is at a bar, who's just been who's like checking to see, she's there on a blind date, and like she texts Tressa Faye's phone looking for her date, and it has the wrong number. Her date stands her up that night, and so she and Tressa Faye like have like a flirty text exchange, and Tressa Faye is like, this is amazing. Haven't felt this way about a person in a long time. And she's like, actually, you know what? Stay where you are. I'm going to come to the bar and meet you. She goes to the bar and she gets there, and Meryl is not, she can't find Meryl. Meryl's like, I'm at the bar. I ordered like margaritas or whatever. I have a pitcher of margaritas. I'm waiting for you. And Tressa Faye's like, I'm at the bar and you are not here. Like, and then she like talks to the hostess, and the hostess is like, we haven't served margaritas all night. Like, I don't, there's, and so she's like, fuck this lady. Like, this is like an intense
I'm being
gaslighting,
gaslit.
catfishing bullshit, right? And she's basically like, never text me again, lose my number. She blocks the number, and then that's that. The next day, she's like thinking about it, and she's like, this sucks. Like, I really felt like so connected to her. Like, I don't understand why she would feel this way. Like, she had given her like an Instagram account, and she went to look at it, and like, this person seems very wholesome and nerdy. And she realizes, and so she decides she's going to message the Instagram account and just say like, listen, I'm pretty sure I was catfished last night by somebody using your information, your persona. So she does, and then that's the end of that. A couple days later, she turns up, or somebody comes into the bookstore, the hair salon, and it's two people, and they're like, how could you have possibly, like, don't you understand how cruel it is that you chose 2 days ago to message Meryl, when you stood her up 6 months ago, and then a month ago she went missing, and like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And it's Meryl's sister and Meryl's ex-boyfriend, who is now her best friend. And they are like, what the fuck? And she's like, hang on a second. And it turns out that Meryl, she looks at the like date stamps on her texts, and Meryl's texts have come through in May, but it's October in the book.
So weird. Like,
and so
it.
I know it's like so then like the whole thing is about like multiverse theory, and like Meryl goes missing, and then instantly her best friend former boyfriend is like, tell her. So what they discover is that Tressa Faye can text Meryl through space and time. And so her boyfriend or her ex-boyfriend or best friend now is like, tell her not to go to like this bar that she went missing from in September. And so she does. And then instantly in the book, Jen, they all have a shift in their memory where they're like, she didn't go missing from the bar. She went missing from her apartment. Like, and they remember, but they're still like, it's like a break in the multiverse, right? Because it's like, they remember both things as being true. And like, so then it's sort of like Meryl is a genius. She's like super sciencey and nerdy. And she and Tressa Faye start like running experiments like to try and figure it out. And then like Meryl goes to Tressa Faye's hair salon in May, but like alters the future, like alters the way Tressa Faye feels about her in October. Like, it's so cool.
I love
it. And
the
whole time, like, first of all, very clever, like very carefully threaded, very carefully like interwoven to make sure that it all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And also so that like a dummy like me can like follow. But also there's this like great moment where, and of course there's sort of this big mystery that there's this looming disappearance, right? So like we know that Meryl is in danger the whole time, but
Right.
we don't know why. We don't know what's going to happen to her. And then, like, but at the same time, like I said, it's incredibly charming. It's a huge cast of characters. This is a sapphic romance filled with like a bunch of queer characters. It's really a massive community. It's lovely. But there's this great moment where, you know, one of their friends is trying to explain how multiverses work, and she says, all your love exists everywhere all the time.
Oh, I love that.
And it's so beautiful because it feels like that is how love is.
Yeah.
Like, it does exist everywhere all the time. And I just, it's interesting because I thought about, you know, the Oki book. I told you, like, one of the charming things about that book is that it feels like these two, like, they just missed their chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like this cosmic love at the multiverse hair salon is like they're just trying to find their
the chance. I love it.
And it's so charming, and I really loved it.
I am definitely going to read that because, you know, I love like a book that fucks around with time. This reminds me, listen, if you're like, that sounds cool, but you have some like lit fic reader in your life, one of my favorite lit fic books like this is called Version Control by Dexter Palmer. It's a fucking banger. It's great.
Okay, cool.
So,
I mean, it seems complicated to write, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I mean, but
how
like,
do you keep it all?
Yeah. Well,
straight?
and yeah. So I'm really excited about this. Also, we are planning to do a time travel episode, everybody. So
yeah. So this will come back probably on that episode.
Yes, of course. Okay. All right. I am going to talk about Hopelessly Devoted.
Oh boy.
By Audrey Goldberg Roth. And I've got to tell you, everybody, I really was like, I'm not gonna like this one because I don't know why. I don't know why I decided I wasn't gonna like this one. I think I have a very specific like window for reading witchy romances, and it is not like 10 days before Christmas. So whatever. I was wrong. This one's delightful. And then I was kind of like, oh, maybe I should wait till next Halloween. I don't care. Okay. So, and one of the things that I really liked about this book, I think, is there were quite a few things, but I would say the most important, right, there are like a lot of things this book does well. But the thing that I really love that this book did well was like lean into a truly unbelievable amount of plot. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
And I was like instantaneously like, I am not sure that, right, like in a future books by this author, maybe they would be talked into like doing a little less or streamlining it or like cleaning it up, like, or whatever. And I was kind of like
chilling out.
Yeah. And I was like, no, bring it on. Because there's so many books now where nothing happens, and like an insane amount of things happen in this book. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in the book, the main characters are his real name is Azrael Ashmady Hart. He is twice named after a witch, and his parents basically are like, he's a witch. No, twice named after the devil. He's a witch who is twice named after the devil, but he's not evil. And his parents very much are like in the like wildly in love, like the Addams family, like, right, like just like the whole vibe was like Morticia Addams and whatever. I guess I can't remember his name. Gomez. Jesus, like, good Lord. Anyway, and meanwhile, Vicky is our heroine, and her parents are like the richest people in town, but they are like ice cold, just terrible people everybody hates. And when the book opens, they're essentially about to leave for college. He's kind of wildly in love with Vicky, has been his whole life. But he just cannot bring himself to like sort of tell her the truth about his feelings. And so he like gets on the plane to go to California, and she, he wants to be a screenwriter, and, and she is going to stay in their like small town in, I don't know, everybody, whatever, Vermont, Maine, one of those. Okay. Sorry. And what happens is then we like pick up, and now it's, I guess, 7 years later, right? They're 25, 26. Actually, she turns 26 in the book. So, and his parents, and this, again, I thought this was like a really interesting choice, right? His parents have died due to like essentially like a pandemic, but that is only hitting like sort of magical people, right? And it's kind of very COVID coded, right? Like there's not really like they're not even trying to pretend that that's not the case, but it's had like a really specific impact on the ability of like remaining magical people to travel. And so when his parents died, Az like was not able to be there for the like funeral, and he's finally sort of like made his way back home. Meanwhile, we find out that Vicky's parents had made a deal with the devil when she was a baby. And they essentially, like, the deal is that they would be like rich and powerful and famous, not famous, but rich and powerful. And, that they would be collecting souls on behalf of this devil that they'd made the deal with. And in return, it turns out, though, that like the magical power they bargained for, they gave to Vicky. So she's like been at their beck and call her entire life in a very disgusting and kind of gross way. And the book starts with her essentially deciding that she has to like break up with her parents. And they're like, if you do this, we're going to disown you. And she's like, I don't care. And what she wants to do is she's like, I've done all of these things for you in order to make you rich and famous and use this like skill I didn't even want. And what it is that she can talk to ghosts. And in return, all I'm asking is for you to let me buy Hopelessly Devoted, which is like Az's parents' tea shop that they loved in town. And they're like, we're not going to let you buy that garbage tea shop. And so she's like, well, fuck you. Disown me. I'll go buy it myself. And this is sort of like how the book starts is, right? Like essentially Az comes back to town. He is grief-stricken over the death of his parents. He has his sister still there, but just his like guilt and shame over somehow like not being able to be there or not being affected. Meanwhile, Vicky is like, I am trying to run this, tea shop that was your parents, and that is like really I don't know, like a testament and honor to like their love and how they felt for each other. And then it turns out, like the devil who her parents made the deal with shows up and is like, well, you're going to have to like finish up the bargain. So I'm going to need 3 more souls from you. And he, and Az is like, what? You made a deal with the devil, right? And it turns out that there's like a mega church.
God damn it.
Right. And she's like, well, he's kind of handsome. And he's like, they're always handsome. No one makes a good deal with like like, you know what I mean? And then there's like a mega church in town that is like kind of the pure, like of the real evil in town, of course, is being headquartered there. And like the two of them have to like figure it out. Now, here's the thing. Like I was kind of delighted by how plotty it was. I was delighted by like the really fun banter and the like, I don't know, like the world building, frankly, right? Like the idea about like what Az's magic actually was and how it worked and how her magic worked. Like essentially if she can hold someone's like a beloved object from someone, she can like talk to the dead and like sort of interview them almost on the behalf of like someone else. And so like there's a really heartbreaking scene where Az is like, I just want to talk to my parents again. Right? Like from beyond the grave. And so all of this is to say, I was really delighted by kind of like the zaniness of all of that, the plot, the story, the townspeople, the tea shop, right? Like all this stuff. Another thing I thought that the book did really well, and I think it's really hard to do well, is utilizing texting as storytelling. Right? The truth is, in our modern world, people do a lot of texting.
Yeah.
And the thing about Vicky and Az is during college, they had essentially like a kind of a one-night stand. Like they see each other and then Az like gets cold feet and like kind of backs off. And it broke her heart, and they've been essentially estranged now. So like, right, 7 years ago, he went away for college. 5 years ago, this all went down. And you really see them rebuilding their relationship, their friendship via text. And I think it's really effective, like the teasing and the banter and right, like, and I just found myself thinking like, this is really how people are now,
Yeah.
right? And I think that, sometimes in a book, all I want is like, okay, just text once or twice so that I know that you're doing it. But this book really leans into lots of texting as a way of like showing us what they're willing to say to each other and what they aren't, and how you get a text and it's like, you just see the three dots, but now we are seeing like what is really, really causing someone to kind of pause in what they're thinking. And I just thought it was really effective. The author, I think, pulls a lot of business to kind of keep these two apart that I think would have been frustrating, frankly, if it had not been like a debut, right? Like at the beginning, you're like, these two have been wildly in love with each other all along. Why can't they be together right now? Well, because that devil has put like a curse on them so they can't touch each other. Fine. Fine. I'll allow it. But, fine. I'll allow it. But there was a lot of like cock blocking, for lack of a better word. But it also, I think, was utilized in a great way. Like there's a really sexy scene where they like mutually masturbate and just watch each other.
My favorite.
Because they can't touch each other. So
Yeah.
I do think that there are ways like that really worked. And overall, though, the writing delighted me, the observations about the world, the way that they were relating to each other, the town and how it was made. So this was a book that I really like. Again, I fell right into it feeling. And because there was an insane amount of plot, it really like kept me going.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
People complain all the time. They're like, I don't want my romance to have a plot. Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
That's how the pages turn.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
that's literally how we do the job.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a really cute bit where like nobody's coming to the tea shop, but Az has this like, he can like snap his fingers. And like work magic. And so she's always like, what's he doing back there? And he's like making it so like that the smell of tea is like wafting further down the street so that people will like come into the business. And it's really cute. Yeah, it's great. Hopelessly devoted.
That's adorable.
Yeah, it was great. It is adorable.
All right, I'm going to talk about plot, but also mess. But also like, okay. So, people have been telling me that I should read Lindsay Barrett's Savannah Royals for a long time. Mm-hmm. And this is another one that's like been sitting on my bedside table. And I finally picked it up and I had a great time with this. So this book is set in the 19 teens in Savannah. And it is about a group of kids who are orphaned and left to themselves. Like they sort of find each other, kind of Oliver Twist, or not Oliver Twist. What's the one with Fagin? Is that Oliver Twist? Who can say?
I think so.
Anyway,
yes. I was like,
it's like one of those Dickens groups.
I was like, wasn't. That feels like a pop quiz, Sarah. I wasn't ready. Had not done my Dickens reading for the week.
Anyway,
my
right,
Dick
everybody.
reading, yes. Dickens reading, no. It's okay.
You were
Carol's gone.
Heated Rivalry.
Carol's gone. Everybody, it's fine.
Anyway, so it basically a group of like orphans find themselves in the catacombs of Savannah. I didn't know there were catacombs underneath Savannah, but
neither.
There we go. And they become like a criminal group, like a little gang.
Okay.
Called the Wolves. And as they age, they become tougher and tougher. And it's 3 boys and a girl, Kat. And as they get older, and so initially Kat's sort of invisible. She's like little and sort of girl. She's a girl. She's a child. And she's nimble and she can like pick a pocket and she's really useful. And then as she ages and becomes like more voluptuous and more beautiful, her role, they realize like they can't hide her anymore. Like she can't be invisible. Now she has to be very visible. And so what they decide is that they're going to use her as she will become like the one of the 4 of them who will enter into kind of Savannah society. They'll pass her into Savannah society, and then she'll be their like link so that they can start robbing, like really doing real crime.
Ooh.
Like they're gonna she's like a master thief. She's a jewel thief, and they are like, that's what they're gonna do. So that's the plan. And Lindsay gives us a little bit of, she gives us a fair amount actually of like the backstory of these kids and how they come to be. Kat falls is kind of like, she doesn't really have a choice. She's young and the rest of them are young. And it sort of becomes very clear that like she and Paul, the like leader of this gang, who is like a year older than her, are like meant to be. And so, they have like, he has a King of Diamonds tattoo and she has a Queen of Diamonds tattoo. And like it's kind of like everyone sort of agrees like she and Paul are fated. And then there's another guy in the group, Abe, who is like, it becomes clear that like Kat and Paul have kind of an open relationship, and sometimes like Abe like joins them, and sometimes Kat like sleeps with Abe, and like this is a very sexy book where like Kat is very there's something very interesting that Barrett is doing here with class that like there is a Kat's not there's like she's not ashamed of her like sexual skill. She's not ashamed of her sexual history. She doesn't think there's she's just very like open.
Yeah.
And she and Paul have this sort of like open relationship, but there's always a little bit of like an edge with Paul, and you're not really sure like what's up with that. And then so Kat they've like cobbled together enough money, and they're in like talk about a book with a lot of plot. There's also like a rival gang. They're doing like a crime war situation. They have a lot of money. So they've taken all this money and they've sent Kat to essentially like a finishing school where she's like being finished along with like Astors and Vanderbilts and sort of, they're not like the New York ones. They're like the, second cousins who still are like rich and like fancy, but they're rich and fancy Georgia, not rich and fancy New York City. So she goes to this like finishing school where she meets all these people, and the idea is like she will, one, be finished at this school, and then two, she'll meet all their brothers. And so then like she'll find her way into society, right? And Paul's basically like, it's us, but like you got to go find like a Vanderbilt, an Astor, or whatever. So she finds this guy, Matthew, who is like a doctor and like the second son of like a great American family. And, up in, a made up one, but like friends with the Astors and the Vanderbilts. And Matthew, this doctor, is like hot, and he is, he's brilliant, and he's committed, and he like comes off as being just like this perfect like prince. And then it becomes very clear very quickly that like Matthew is also like kinky as fuck.
Ooh, I like that.
And he's like,
well, let me write this down.
Like, game recognizes game, right? And so Kat, every time she like turns up at one of these like 400 club meetings in Savannah, he like at a party, the two of them sort of like find their way into these like very sexy flirty experiences, and then they like play like strip pool, and like it gets to be very sexy.
I'm doing a little dance, everyone. You can't see it, but I am doing it.
You all have probably noticed that I've just described a love triangle, which is not for Sarah, but is also for Sarah in this one specific case, because there's such a big plot going on here, and there's sort of a big sense like what is happening here is Kat is having to reckon with the past and the future that the past told her was going to be hers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there was never any question that she would end up with Paul. There was never any question that she would have this like kind of very intense relationship with these other boys, and that they would all like, they would run in this pack forever.
Yeah.
Right? The wolf pack was going to exist, and they were going to do crime, and they were going to rise to be like kings and queens of Savannah's crime syndicate. But then there is this moment. And so like Matthew's family has this like ruby necklace that's like the holy grail of, jewels for Kat to steal, right? Like it's all kind of written the way that you would expect. But what's happening here is Kat is having to reckon with like, but shit, I actually really like this guy. And I like him because he is the first person I have ever been allowed to choose to like.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
right.
with these other relationships, it was never a choice. It was just like, obviously I love Paul. And like, I should say, she really does like, it's like she's never interrogated what love of Paul is because she was just destined for Paul. But like all of a sudden, without destiny, like without that sort of sense of destiny, she is no longer like she gets to choose Matthew, and he's sexy and fun and bantery, and he is everything that Paul is not. And then it becomes clear that like one of these men is definitely not what they seem. And she has to navigate this as like a grown woman.
Yeah.
And it is a really good example. We talk all the time about how romance really needs to be about characters' evolution, right? They can't start at the beginning and end in the same place. And this is really about Kat, like coming to understand who she is.
Yeah.
And like and she's not going to turn her back on like what she has been and like how she walks through the world. Like this is a very hard woman, but like because she's had to be,
She's
the
had
world
to
has
be,
made
right.
her that way, right? Like she is a jewel in the sense that like pressure has made her. But I just think like this is it's a really interesting way of telling a romance. And also, I mean, I will say, like, I was like, oh no, a love triangle? How is this going to work out? And I had a great time with it. Again, like, I think it's just really interesting. It's a book that I would like to read. This is now a series. It's called the Wolves Crime
Fun
Novels
Sure.
or whatever. And I assume all of them will, be part of it, and we'll see the others sort of match up. And I'm super into it. I'll be honest, I was really refreshed by like, here's a character who's like, there's sex on the page in this book that's like not with
the main characters.
hero.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
There's
yeah.
a poly, like Kat's very free to have sex with other characters. I really enjoyed that. And then of course it has one of my favorite microtropes, which is we play a game and every time I win, you answer a question, which is
A+.
Listen,
A+.
I'm a basic bitch, everybody. That's all I want. It doesn't take much to entertain me. So that's Savannah Royals by Lindsay Barrett, and I really did have a great time with it.
Amazing. Okay, so I am going to talk about listen, everybody, I'm sorry, a basketball romance, and it was great. And the name of it...
Why are you apologizing?
I don't know. It's very basketball-y, which is kind of what I liked, actually. So it's called Play You For It by Samantha Saldivar. And in this book, the two women who are the main characters are both... It takes place in, like, I don't know, Oregon. It takes place in Eugene, Oregon. It's not Portland. And Samantha Saldivar, I actually was looking this up. She is the author was a sports reporter, I think, for a long time. Because I was
cool.
like, when you're reading something and you're like, wow, this just is so, I don't know, like so into like it just felt so real, right? It didn't feel like romance sports. It felt like real sports. Okay, so Jordan D'Amato is one of our women, and she is the first woman to be named as a head coach of the men's NCAA Division I basketball team. And so, at the beginning of the book, her mentor, right, the coach who hired her to work at this college, has been hired away to go to the NBA, like only a couple of weeks before the college basketball season starts. The college basketball and NBA basketball both start in the fall. Like late fall, winter. And so she gets called into her, like the, I don't know, the director of college sports or whatever. I don't know. Office, because essentially her mentor is like, the job should go to Jordan. Of course, he has a team that is that caliber. There's like a bunch of assistant coaches, but he's like, Jordan basically wrote the playbook. Jordan has the best relationship with these players. Jordan is your new coach. And the guy, the sort of guy at the college is basically like, this is bullshit. And she can tell that he does not want to hire her. He wants to hire one of these other assistant coaches who's a man. But for, whatever reason, she gets the job. Now, The other character is a woman named Caroline Beck. And Beck is a sports reporter based out of Portland who essentially is she gets sent down for this kind of dumb, she works at like a regional kind of station, and it's like small time, and she gets sent down to cover this, and she sees like Jordan, and she like reads the room, and she calls her boss and is like, it's going to be Jordan D'Amato, who's like a woman. And she ends up like just really having the inside track because she is so willing to just say to Jordan over and over and over again, like, hey, can I be the first one to interview? Can I interview you? Can I interview you? Right. And Jordan's like, no,
Okay.
no. And she actually finally agrees to it one night when they like play a game of horse.
And nobody else has interviewed her.
Yeah, right. And Jordan is basically like, I have a job to do. I'm not going to sit down with CNN or ESPN or anybody else. Like, I am going to do my job. But because of Beck's persistence, she essentially, like, at one point agrees to, like, being interviewed by her. And it's, like, really then this great scene where Beck goes back to her, her station and is like, I got the interview. And they're like, great. This other guy's going to do it. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And so then when Jordan like comes, when Jordan shows up at the interview and it's this man, she's like, no, I'm not doing it with you. I am doing it with Beck. Like, this is the person who I trust. And the thing that is really terrific about this book is how it really explores essentially misogyny in the workplace for both of these women, and how it is both the same and different, right? And like the challenges that they have both faced to sort of get to the position they're in, the way that women are expected to essentially just like grin and bear it in the face of like gross misogyny and assumptions about who can do the job and who can't, right? The chances that men get over and over and over again and women do not. And I frankly found this to be something I just really enjoyed reading. Like, I enjoyed reading a book where here you have two women in two very different competitive, like high-powered jobs where they are expected not to be women. Yeah. And the ways in which they like were like, just like, I don't care. This is the job I want. This is what I love, right? Jordan played in the WNBA and like had essentially had an injury that led her into coaching. Beck had older brothers and she just loved sports her entire life. And her two parents were both kind of big time reporters. And they expected her to like be a reporter, but not a sports reporter. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, okay, so that's like their personal lives, which are like a really great part of the book. But then there's also why can't they be together right now? Well, because Beck is covering Jordan's team. Yeah. And so Jordan it's now, not ethical. Right, and it's not only that it's not ethical, but like for Jordan, it's like, well, if I'm honest with you about things that are going on with me at work, you might cover them like it's a story. Yeah. Right? And for Beck, right? And for Beck, it's like if you have the inside scoop on a story and you won't tell me about it, it's impacting my ability to do my job. Mm-hmm. Right? And so it was such a real conflict, right? Yes. Which is so great. It was so great. It really was. And
not a fake relationship in sight.
No, right? And not at all. And Beck knows she's bisexual, but has like never really sort of been out to her parents. She had like everyone thought was her like best friend in college was really someone she was with. And she just felt like she could never be honest with her family about it. And so like being with Jordan really challenges her to essentially like kind of be honest with her family about kind of who she was. She's dated men and women. And, now that this is happening, it's I think a really kind of amazing scene, right? Where she finally it's like she's home for the holidays and tells her parents, like, not about Jordan, but about the fact that she is not straight. Yeah. And I just thought that this book was really terrific. I think it's pretty basketball heavy. I think the romance of it all, I think, is I wouldn't call it second string. It still feels like a romance, but for sure it is. Their individual journeys are a really big part of the book as well. And I think that's just because, like, you're the first one to do something. Like in
Yeah.
Jordan's case, like it's going to consume you. And yet then the conversation about like when things do go wrong for her and how little chances she's given, the conversation she has like with Beck and with her mentor and with other people about like, what does it mean to live a full life, even if you
Yeah.
have achieved kind of the pinnacle of professional success. So I thought it was really great. I loved it. And if you are looking for a really great sports romance where the sports are a really key part of the story, not just a sort of like the backdrop is she's a, you know what I mean? Then this might be a book that you will really love. So it's called Play You For It by Samantha Saldivar.
Okay, my last one is less messy, but still has. It's a little messy. And I've talked about this before on earlier episodes this year. I talked about this on Horse, Regency Horse, or Historical Horse, Romance Horse. But I want to talk about The Trouble with Anna because I really do think Rachel Griffiths is a remarkable writer. And I'm always very happy when there is a historical writer who bursts onto the scene with something that is near and dear to my heart, which this one is a Regency. And it is... it just is full of all the things. I said at the beginning, part of why I love a debut is because you can often see like the things that a writer really loves about the genre. And like, it's very clear that Rachel loves like classic down the middle historical full of, horses and stern men. So, okay. Anna, the eponymous Anna from The Trouble with Anna, is a horse girl. She loves she is basically like, she would prefer never to show up at a country house party or any form of house party. She would be much happier just like hanging out in the stables and riding her horses. She is very plain and she is a little bit prickly. And the reality is that she doesn't really mind that everybody feels that way about her. Problem is, she is at a country house party at some point and her grandfather drops dead. And it's bad luck that because her grandfather is also her guardian and she is suddenly stuck the way so many Regency heroines are stuck by virtue of like, she has nothing. She is not going to inherit the title. She has been saddled with a guardian who believes that he has been saddled with a ward, everyone. And that guardian is her best friend's older brother, Julian. And when the will is read, and all she is worried about is her fucking horses. Like, who will how will she make sure that her horses, like, her friend Charlotte is like, I think you should be concerned about, like, how you're going to live. And she's like, what about my horses? So, in the will, her grandfather basically said, like, you are now Julian's ward. And if you marry Julian within the next 6 months, you can keep the stables, the land, and the horses. But if not, it all gets sold and you have to like go on the marriage market. And she's like, fuck. Okay. Because like all that matters is the horses. And Julian is like, fuck. No way. Like, he is convinced at the very beginning of this that Anna has basically asked her grandfather for this, like, this will, this structure for the inheritance. But his family kind of convinces him of otherwise, and then he sort of comes around to the fact that he's always sort of like liked the cut of Anna's jib. And and she is, and like, she is, he goes back to her to apologize, and she's like, you know what? This is crazy. I will find another way. I don't know what that other way will be, but I will find another way. And of course, and what we see is sort of a quieter romance where they both start to really like grow to care about each other. And What's interesting about this, and I want to go back to, we've been talking about character kind of over and over, the way
Mm-hmm.
that like characters have to shift and change, and like we have to give them complexity and those kinds of things. And I think what's really interesting here is Rachel is a tremendous writer.
Yeah.
And this is on a number of levels. On like the most surface of levels, she is a fucking delight to read. Like the banter is bright and it sparkles and the humor is just so on point, and Anna is so funny and Julian is so dry, and there are so many like great moments that really harken back to like the greats in historical, like in the Regency genre. Like there is Julia Quinn level banter in this book, and I think people like are, if that's what you're looking for, like that is something Rachel is really delivering here.
Mm-hmm.
That said, these characters are so carefully drawn. So at the very beginning, you have this like Julian who's like got a stick straight up his spine, and he's lost his family. He feels deeply. This is a very sort of known archetype in historicals. Like he feels really committed to like having to like take care of everything. He feels the burden, the weight of his title, the weight of his past, the weight of his family. And she is like this sort of like, she's like a blue stocking. Like she's not a blue stocking, but horse is her blue stockingness, right? Like she's just sort of like so single-minded. And then these two are like really they're really developing with each other. Like you can totally see that like without each other they would have stayed in their like in stasis, but in every interaction with each other they crack open a little more and evolve a little bit more. And what ends up happening is these two people who were just so rigid and like lacking nuance in a lot of ways become like rich, fully formed, nuanced characters by virtue of falling for each other. And it is so well done. And also they fuck in the stable. I mean, like, Anna's basically like, if we're going to get married, okay, why don't you show me everything? And he's like, I must marry you first. I can't, we must get a special license. But also he's like, what if I just like pull down your bodice and like just go to town?
Sure. A+.
And it's fun for everyone. So I'm really proud of the two of them. So anyway, like you will enjoy this if you love a kind of Tessa Dare, Julia Quinn, Julianne Long kind of, Regency.
That's fun. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so my last book is one, it's called Celebrity Crush by Christy Swift. And I don't love a celebrity romance, but this is a book that really like helped me like realize what I was looking for in one of these romances, right? The like lean in part, because like you can tell that Christy Swift loves a celebrity romance, right? Like, and she just like comes up with this like kind of wild and wacky premise and then leans right the fuck into it. And I found that to be like super refreshing. I like sort of giggle, like I'm not a giggler, but like more than once in this book, like kind of like giggled, laughed out loud, like really was just like kind of delighted by how I don't know, like, how you have always said, like, you can tell when somebody just really puts everything they love in a first book. That's kind of how this book made me feel.
Good.
Right? And there were things about, so in the book, okay, so here's the plot. Our heroine is Emmy. She is just written a really popular book, and like it's been a bestseller. There's a whole like continuing thing in this where it's like a New York Times bestseller, where I was literally like, every author I know would be like, that's not how any of this works, but it was fine because it didn't matter. Where she then admits on her Instagram, and she's like an influencer, right? So she's written a really popular book, but she also has like all of her money comes from like doing like lots of like goofy things on the internet. Like she has, like sort of a like, like weird yoga poses and like, right, all these things that she does. But when the book came out and people were reading it, and she was sort of looking for ways to like sort of like keep it popular and just like keep people talking about it, she basically admitted that the main character in the book, which was a celebrity romance, was based on her own personal celebrity crush. And then she like does like an Instagram poll, like, who do you think it is? Right. And then like basically like refuses to tell the truth about which one it is. And she mentions it's like 3 or 4 guys essentially who are on the same like show or whatever. Is it this guy? Is it this guy? Right. And so the book opens with her going on essentially like Oprah, Drew Barrymore, The View type show or whatever, where she's going to be interviewed about like the book and how well it's doing. And of course, what does the show, person do but bring out these like 4 guys, and like essentially it's going to like corner her on live TV about like which one it is. And I like really loved the interior monologue at this point, because Emmy was basically like, don't blow this. Like, you have to be cute, you have to be charming, you're just a normie, you're like flirting with these like handsome Hollywood guys, like just lean in and make it really fun and be, this is your one chance. And of course, she's asked on live TV, like, which one is your crush, right? And it turns out it's Jason Connor. Now, Jason has actually had is like a mess. He has, a long-term girlfriend, and they have a child who's only a couple years old, but they're not married. And, they've each been caught out with like other people. There's been like drinking, you know what I mean? Like, Jason is someone who has enjoyed, let's just say, the life and fame that Hollywood has afforded him. And so anyway, like this all, and he is basically what happens, of course, like what's going to keep them apart is not just that she's a normie, but also that like he's gotten into so much hot water in the press that his producers say to him, you need to stay away from this woman. Like, we cannot afford any more scandals. She is a regular person. You are a fucking mess. Get your life together and cut this shit out. But of course, they keep getting thrown back together, right? Like her book tour, like essentially the book spikes in popularity, especially after this like TV show, that they're on.
Sure.
So, they get this brilliant idea of essentially having a couple of like book events where he's going to come to them, like right to the readings or whatever on the West Coast. She lives in Florida, where she has actually a daughter who's like 12. And it turns out that as we like kind of get to know the story, Emmy wanted to be part of Hollywood. And she had, had gone to like filmmaking school or something. And she has like a one night stand with this like super famous producer who she thinks is going to like read her script, like essentially like that classic Hollywood story. And so, she has every reason to be really wary of Hollywood as well. But it's fucking Hollywood, Sarah. And all of a sudden, she's wildly popular there, and like these him and his friends think she's like hilarious and awesome, and she's going to parties with rich and famous people, and you know what I mean. And so I think the whole way that this book really delivers the sort of you're a normie kind of thrust into this world that you always wanted. And at the same time, once she and Jason start spending more time together, like they realize that they actually have so much in common. They have great chemistry, right? Like she really, I don't know. It's great. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I had a lot of fun reading it. I found myself just really thinking like, these are two people who, it's not quite messy. Like that is messy, but it feels kind of surface level mess. A lot of the mess gets cleaned up pretty easily. Right. It didn't feel like in Once Upon a Time in Dollywood, like the mess is so like really
Yeah.
deeply rooted in who they are. This is like, there's a lot of mess, but don't worry.
This is like romance mess.
It's romance mess, right? Here's the one thing I'm going to say that is like really funny is everyone knows I have like one thing that really drives me bonkers, which is like dated pop culture references. And I will tell you, like, this author was born in the hospital I was born in and was in the bed next to me. But I could not for the life of me understand why these 27-year-old characters knew about the Pina Colada song. But I enjoyed this book so much, right? Why did they love Duran Duran? I don't know. But this book was so fun in so many other ways that I was able to overlook this one very specific thing where I was like, kind of hilariously like being like, wait, really? But it was really fun. And I just found it like, you know how you said like a really straight over the plate, like sort of classic romance.
Yeah.
That's what this book definitely felt like to me. It is really, really fun. So that's Celebrity Crush by Christy Swift.
Well, I'm really happy with this because I feel like 8 new authors is a really nice, solid group of new authors. A new class, a 2025 class. That's what we used to... When I debuted, my debut year was 2009, and we had a live journal, and that's where we all hung out. Was it a live journal? I think it was a live journal. It was not anything that exists now. And we were called the debut class of 2009.
Nice.
And as I understand it now, they still do this. There are like Discords and things where they do this. And I often think, I mean, like, you know, I often think of that class. Like, I think about a lot of those people do not still write. But it's an important group. So the people you come up with. Anyway, those are the debuts that we really loved this year. Although there are others that that I think we probably really enjoyed. There's at least one that I found like tremendously charming, but like it wasn't quite for me.
Yeah.
So head out and take a look at, you know, what's around, everyone. Anyway, this is God. Next week we're off.
Yes.
We are taking the week off next week. You know, for festivities, feast and festivity.
Sure.
And sloth. And then we are back for New Year's Eve with a real one, everyone. Lauren Billings from Christina Lauren will be joining us on New Year's Eve, and that is your clue as to what we're...
Yeah, I don't know. None of us are really ready for about what's to happen, but that is the New Year's Eve vibe in which we enter into the world.
Yeah, that's how I want us to enter into a new year.
I'm going to start off by saying,
just
Carol,
off the rails.
I need you to turn this off right now. This is
Carol.
NFC, not for Carol.
Not for Carol. Anyway, I am Sarah McLean. I'm here with my friend Jen Prokop. We are Fated Mates. We are very, very happy to have you with us this year and every year. You can find us online at fatedmates.net. That's where show notes are. Every book we talk about is also in show notes. There's a beautiful photo array that Jen puts together every week, along with links to all of the books. We are also incredibly happy to have our Discord members with us, our Patreon subscribers with us. You can join the Patreon, the Fated Mates Patreon at patreon.com/fatedmates. If you are interested if you're still sort of being nagged by somebody in your life to give them an idea for a Christmas gift or a Hanukkah gift, now is the time for you to maybe say, well, what if you gave me a subscription to the Fated Mates Patreon? You can join that at fatedmates.net/gift. And what else? You can find us on Instagram at Fated Mates Pod, on Threads at Fated Mates Pod, on Blue Sky at Fated Mates, and every single Wednesday wherever you get your podcasts, except for next Wednesday.
Right.
You can't find us next Wednesday. I mean, unless you want to come and hang out at our house.
Sure.
Jen has some room. It's fine. So, I don't know. Happy holidays, everyone. We are hoping that they will be easy and festive, if that's what you're aiming for.